Hello. So my portfolio is a structured literacy toolkit built around teaching R-controlled vowels, the sound like ER, IR, and UR, to a small group of second graders in Tier 2 intervention. I picked this skill specifically because it's a pattern kids commonly struggle with, even after they've mastered short and long vowels, and it pairs really naturally with a sound wall. The research piece is based on the article we read by Louise Spear Swerling about reading fluency, and everything in this toolkit ties back to that one article. So, going over the article in my research, the article's big idea is that fluency isn't just reading fast. It's the combination of accuracy, automaticity, and expression. And one thing that really stood out to me and changed how I think about intervention is that some students can learn to decode accurately and still read very slowly because automatic word recognition never fully developed. That's a different problem than a student who is still making decoding errors, and it needs different instruction. So the author of the article is pretty clear that phonics instruction alone doesn't fix that gap. And fluency sometimes has to be taught directly and systematically, not just assumed it'll show up eventually. That distinction matters a lot for students with disabilities because a student can look totally fine on a decoding assessment. They know the sounds, they can sound out words, and they can still be struggling to actually read fluently and comprehend what they're reading. If I only looked at accuracy data, I might think that student's fine, when really they need direct fluency work. So this research really shaped how I built my lesson. I didn't want phonics practice sitting off on its own, disconnected from fluency. That's why there's a timed reading and fluency check built directly into the lesson, not just word list drilling in isolation. So the lesson. The lesson is built for a small group of 4 to 6 second graders who already know their short and long vowels, but need explicit instruction on R-controlled vowels. It runs about 30 to 40 minutes, so it fits comfortably in a typical intervention block. It opens with a short warm-up, just reviewing sounds they already know using the sound wall. So we're activating prior knowledge before introducing anything new. Then I move into explicit modeling. I show them the mouth position for the ER, IR, UR, sound words using cards that show the mouth position. And then I could say something like, watch my mouth, watch how my light lips are slightly rounded or my tongue is pulled back. And I model decoding a few words like bird and turn using tile letters and thinking out loud the whole time. I also model writing one of the words, so we're connecting decoding and encoding right from the start of the lesson. From there, we move into guided practice. Students build words with letter tiles as I guide them through changes, like now change her to bird. We quarterly decode a word list together, and if a student makes an error, I use a my turn, your turn routine. So I say the correct sound, they repeat it, and we move right along without dwelling on the mistake. Then, independent practice, students sort word cards onto the sound wall by spelling pattern and they read a short decodable passage while a partner times them and tracks their words correct per minute. I close with an exit ticket. So 5 R-controlled words they read aloud to me. They circle the ones they got right on their own paper. So I walk away with a quick individual accuracy data before the next session. One thing I made sure to build in is differentiation. If a student moving through the lesson quickly, I'll extend them with multisyllabic words like thunder or wonder. And if a student needs more support, I'll shrink down the word list to the highest frequency words, give them a couple extra guided repetitions, and pair them with a stronger reader during the timed fluency check so they're still getting a model while they're practicing. My classroom resource is a sound wall sort using mouth position and word cards. Rather than making all those cards from scratch, I found a great free printable set online from a site called Superstar Worksheets. And it has mouth position visuals, word cards. So it's something I could easily print out, laminate, and use without creating extra prep work. So how the activity actually works is the students say each word out loud first and feel where their mouth is positioned. They're not looking at the spelling yet, so they place the card by the sound on the vowel valley part of the sound wall. Then once everything is sorted by sound, they go through and they'll resort the exact same cards, but this time by spelling pattern, ER, IR, or UR. The second sort is really a key moment because it visually shows them that one sound can be spelled three completely different ways, which is a very important concept for kids to internalize early. So how does this support structured literacy? Everything in here really does hit the core structured literacy pieces. It's explicit because I'm modeling before students ever practice independently. Nothing's left for them to guess at. It's systematic because the lesson builds directly on vowel patterns they've already mastered before, introducing something new. It's multisensory because they're feeling mouth position, manipulating letter tiles, and physically placing cards, not just listening. And there's cumulative review built in. Since the sound wall stays up in the room and gets referenced daily, so there's nothing learned that just disappears once we move on. So for progress monitoring, I am tracking two separate things. Word list accuracy, where I'm aiming for 80% or higher, and words correct per minute on the decodable passage, which I compare against grade level benchmarks. And I think that distinction actually matters a lot. If I see a student's accuracy improve, but their fluency rate doesn't follow, that tells me something specific. Maybe they need more automaticity practice, not more phonics instruction. It keeps me from just assuming more repetition will fix everything. So overall, the goal here was to make sure phonics and fluency were never treated as two separate things. Everything in this toolkit ties back to that main idea from the research. The part of this lesson I am most interested to hear how it would work is the sound wall itself. Because once students learn this sort of sort by sound, then by spelling process, I can reuse it for other vowel sounds all year long. The challenge I anticipate is pacing. So fitting, modeling, guided practice, independent practice, and monitoring into one session without letting any of it run longer than the time I've allotted will be really difficult. But that's what I'm most curious to hear about in this lesson with a small group of children. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello again. So this is my classroom resource demonstration for a sound wall sort using mouth position and word cards. So these are the mouth position cards. They have the different mouth positions for and when you say the different words. So the first part of the activity the students are going to do is a sound sort. So they will say each word out loud, feel their mouth position, and realize that words like burnt, twirl, and fern all sound similar. They all have the same
sound, even though they're spelled differently. So after doing that with all the different cards that they pull out, they are going to move on to the second part of the activity. So now that students understand that all of these sound alike, we are going to be splitting them into 3 separate columns. With a UR, with an IR, and with an ER. So let's start sorting the words. So my first word is fern. So fern has an ER. We'll put that there. My next word, bird. Bird has an IR. So it goes there. My third word is burnt. That has a UR. So that'll go there. Let me do 3 more words. Next word, twirl. Twirl has an IR, so it goes there. Next word, herb. Herb has an ER, so we put it right over here. And our third word, Saturn. Wow, that's a big one. And that will go right there. So students will continue to work through. They'll pull out more letters, more words, and they'll begin placing them down and continue to practice.